Hokie hangover back with myself and Andrew. Alex Mike is recovering from a rather lengthy stay in Disney World. Not quite doing his part to stick it to Disney, is he, Andrew?
No. I mean, to be fair, in the battle between Disney and Google, I have a hard time really feeling sorry for anyone
Yeah.
except for the consumer who's getting screwed either way. So, I've always been a fan of free market capitalism. We'll see how this capitalistic battle plays out.
Yeah, I'm fortunate because I do have YouTube TV. However, I am attending this weekend's game in Tallahassee, and I'll be in the box for the game at Miami. So I'm hoping that by the time the UVA game rolls around, they'll be able to figure this stuff out. Regardless, if you have YouTube TV, hang in there for just a little while longer.
Can you do a like? I know the big thing, and I mean Virginia Tech fans, especially the very online sort like ourselves, would know. Clashy prediction markets is a big thing, and I know they had prediction markets for like when's the government shutdown going to end. Do they have prediction markets for when the YouTube TV, Google, versus Disney, ESPN battle comes to an end? If so, that's a great insider trading opportunity.
Let's see. If you go on Kalshi's website, when will YouTube TV reinstate their streaming contract with Disney? And the current odds-on favorite is before November 24th. That's at 45%. Before November 30 is 61%. So the markets think that we're going to get the UVA game back for YouTube TV subscribers.
I don't think, just like the government shutdown, they can't inflict the pain of people missing their flights over Thanksgiving, and I don't think they can inflict the pain of people not being able to watch. I mean, are any of these Thanksgiving Day games on ESPN? Either way, it's right into rivalry week. Like, they're going to have it back by then.
Yeah, I would think so. And
college football playoff coming up after that.
Yeah, Disney's losing money every day that YouTube TV is not being part of this package, and obviously YouTube TV is losing money in the sense of people are switching services and have had enough with all of the carriage disputes. So regardless of who you have, it sucks, and you're giving your money to a company that has repeatedly shown that they do not care about their consumers, which is disappointing. Unfortunately, there's no solution to that, and we're just going to have to wait and see. We are going to also have to wait and see how this Virginia Tech men's basketball team turns out, because, Andrew, they picked up a pretty big win just a couple days ago against Providence, 107-101 in overtime. There's only 2 games into the season, Andrew, so there's a ton to figure out with this team. However, Neocleus of Dallas seems like he might be the real deal.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, Ricky, we're almost a year removed, probably, almost a week to the day or something like that, from when we actually did a standalone podcast on this program about how we lost a basketball game to Jacksonville. And may I tell you that our listenership numbers have never been lower than that one, because it was pathetic and no one cared. That team showed some heart down the end of the stretch and ended up playing, ultimately better in conference play. And you add a couple of good transfers, and then this kid from Greece who, is a 5-star recruit. And I got to say, like, Virginia Tech did get some preseason hype, and the hype it got came from some relevant names on the scene. Rothstein, I mean, he's nice to everyone. Billis said it in at ACC Media Day. He said he was high on Virginia Tech. John Fanta said nice things about us. Gotta love John Fanta. But either way, I mean, I'm at the point that I got used to with Virginia Tech basketball over the course of the better part of like 8 years, where you went into the season with the expectation that we might be pretty good and that this is a team that could really compete in the ACC and make the NCAA tournament. Now, I think the ACC is probably better this year than it was last year. Last year was a extremely flat showing across the board for the majority of the schools not named Duke. But yeah, I mean, Virginia Tech basketball is now something that if you are, an alumni of our age or of any age, really, I'm not playing ageism, but if you're a Virginia Tech sports fan and they're playing, you got to factor that into your plans for the week now. Whereas last year, the wife or the girlfriend says, "Oh, you want to go to the movies?" You're not checking to see a Virginia Tech basketball game. So just the fact that's what's going on, I am cool with that.
Yeah, it'll be nice to actually really care about Tech's basketball schedule in January and February, which is not something that we could say last year. But Avdalas is going to be the closest thing to appointment television as we've seen for Virginia Tech basketball in quite some time. 33 points against Providence. He looks like he can do a bit of everything. He's shooting the ball well. He's shooting it off the dribble. He's able to create for other guys. And the nice thing I'm noticing about this team so far, Andrew, is that it's not just Avdalas, and they're able to get sizable contributions on offense from multiple players. And that's quite the breath of fresh air, considering we watched Toby Lawal have to do so much last year on his own, and it seems like he's got some help right now.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, right? Toby Lawal, obviously, he contemplated being in the NBA. Now, is Toby Lawal good enough to be in the NBA right now? No. And the scouts told him that. But the fact that he's even close enough to thinking that he's good enough says something about Virginia Tech. And if that's your number 2 this season, plus some added support around him, 2 years ago, we saw Virginia Tech in the transfer portal, just get robbed blind. And there were a lot of transfers out this year, but for the most part, it's looking like, Virginia Tech nets in an extremely positive way, which is credit to the program, which it's hard for me to credit you for not knowing what you were doing and then just doing what everyone else was doing. But they clearly don't not know what they're doing anymore. They have an idea of how to run a basketball program in this NIL era. And, I think Virginia Tech, as Virginia Tech basketball fans, I think we all should have moderately reasonable expectations for how good the team is going to be each and every year. And I think what we ask for, and I think this podcast, we've made that clear. And I think even with talking to my friends, everyone seems to be kind of on the same page. We just want a team that competes for the tournament every year, has a chance to make the tournament every year, and then, maybe makes it 60% of the time. That would be an excellent result. And then, if that were to happen on any consistent basis, we could adjust our expectations from there. But we're in the conversation again. And, as they go into the holiday tournament season, we're going to get the chance to see if, the hype train that has been created from, just a small handful of games and a win over Providence that certainly wasn't expected, but, they didn't beat Duke. We'll see if it was a flash in the pan or if they can consistently go on a run and, maybe win the holiday tournament, maybe, even just make a run and get a couple of quality wins on the schedule, because that stuff's important, especially, and we've seen it with Virginia Tech time and time again, you don't want to get screwed by your November schedule. You have to have it act as a propellant to your tournament chances, especially in an age where, though the ACC might not be improved, it's not Virginia Tech comes as 5th in the ACC in 2019 and it was a miracle, best season ever, we're a 4 seed. No, it's not that conference anymore. So you're not going to be able to pick up as many quality win opportunities as you used to.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like this non-conference schedule presents a ton of challenges either. Now, that's not to say Virginia Tech is going to run the gauntlet here and run the table in non-conference play, because we can assume that's probably not going to happen. But they've got a game now tomorrow night, since we're recording on Tuesday, against St. Joe's. They're going to be at home for the next few games, and then they get the Battle for Atlantis tournament. They could potentially get a couple of decent games out of that. We'll see. Have to see how that works. And then South Carolina is, I guess, a moderately challenged game on December 2nd. And yeah, there's really not that much left on the non-con schedule that's going to be really beneficial come March. This was a big one here to get against Providence. Providence is kind of to be determined exactly how good they are, but knowing the Friars, I think they have a pretty good shot at being at least a moderately competitive team in their conference, and a team that could maybe have an outside shot at getting into the NCAA tournament. Regardless, Tech looks vastly improved compared to last year in a multitude of ways, and they look like they have a team that's probably 8 or 9 players deep, and a team that's going to be able to put points up on the scoreboard. Some improvement maybe defensively that needs to be had, but so far certainly a better product than what we had last year. Hopefully we get a better product on the football field, Andrew, for next year. That's going to be heavily determined on who the head coach is, right? This is a search that is still ongoing. I think a lot of folks, including myself, thought that we might have a quick wrap up on this. However, that has not happened. Virginia Tech still does not have a head coach for 2026. It is important to note that it's still mid-November, Andrew, and a lot of coaching searches don't get done this early. Now, Tech is in a bit of a different situation considering their top target is someone who's unemployed, and they're not having to worry about him finishing up the season. And that would obviously be James Franklin, who was fired by Penn State not too long ago. There was a ton of smoke that Virginia Tech had gotten really close to sealing the deal. And since then, Andrew, it's been a lot of crickets.
Yeah, I mean, there's been rumors circulating, he's in town, he's looking at houses. Well, it's like on so many levels, it just puts me in a situation where I'm thinking like, okay, so this is either happening or is James Franklin like, more than a week later, now multiple weeks into this, dalliance, is that what they called it when Justin Fuente flirted with Baylor? Dalliance.
Never heard that word before.
And it's the only time I've ever heard it too. So I just brought it back. But yeah, James Franklin and Virginia Tech's dalliance has been going on for a few weeks now. And if recently he's in town looking at houses, that means he's either the next head coach of Virginia Tech or this is like a leverage play into like the desperation category where he's like, look at me, it's James Franklin, I'm signing the contract, come on LSU,
Don't make me do it.
I'm gonna do it. If the Florida State, you might want to fire your coach and hire me, I'm about to sign the contract. Oh, actually, let me go, I gotta go home and think about it. Like I don't think, which I mean, to his credit, if that's what he's doing, these seem to also be the people that are coming in and being like, these are our demands. Virginia Tech's like, okay. Like, these are our demands. Okay. These are our demands. Okay. But you have until Monday to sign it. They don't sign it. We're still playing. It's just negotiation. So I don't know what's going on, but I'll tell you that it better. I mean, I'm not saying it better be James Franklin because it might not be, and we'll all be fine. And hopefully, if it's not James Franklin, they can get a coach worth being excited about. Though it would be very Virginia Tech to have this happen for like weeks and weeks and weeks and then fall through. But, if it's Franklin, obviously, there's an advantage to getting in, beginning to build a staff, which like for, if it's James Franklin coming in, like he's just going to completely reinvent the entire operation, I assume. Like there will be no semblance of anything from the past left, except for maybe some crossover staffers on the support side for him and Pry. Doesn't want to tell the guy that takes the pictures for social media that was at Penn State and then moved to Virginia Tech to Pry that, you're fired. You got to go find another job. And then, honestly, the creative team at Virginia Tech does a great job. So do many of the back support channel people. So shout out to you guys. You're not the problem here. But yeah, so I mean, that would be an adventure. I mean, you hear the name Bob Chesney thrown out there and like, that's great. Bob Chesney might be playing in the college football playoff. Bob Chesney going to skip the college football playoff to build a staff at Virginia Tech? I don't think so. Well, that puts you behind the 8 ball. That's a weird situation. I'm not against the guy. He seems like a winner, but again, like no one plays well, when you start 10 yards behind in the relay race. Those guys don't tend to win, especially when you're already starting from behind, given where the roster's at right now. So if it's not Franklin, the Chesney, I think, is on there on the prediction markets. We circle back to that year, and it's like that just seems to be a very large disparity if those are your two options between the way that the at least early part of it would play out. So, and one last thing on Franklin as we go to talk about Florida State versus Virginia Tech here, and I joked a minute ago about Franklin telling Florida State to fire their coach or he was going to sign the contract and it was going to be too late. Wouldn't it be the most sickly, ironic thing in the world if Virginia Tech beats Florida State this weekend, which leads to them firing Norvell, and then Franklin would end up at Florida State? I hate to put that into the world, and I'm sorry, people, but it's like there's a path there that is not outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah, look, I am not going to be cheering for Florida State, obviously, this Saturday, because if I'm going to go to Tallahassee, I'd like to see the Hokies win. I think it would be nice. But that part is out there, Andrew, that, look, Florida State just lost to Clemson by 2 scores. Florida State, not really much to play for at this point. They've already kind of given a lukewarm statement on the future of Mike Norvell. There's not really a lot of certainty there. There's a huge possibility that Norvell doesn't make it after the end of the season, although it seems like the Noles are at least going to retain him for the remainder of the year. If Norvell were to lose to an interim head coach at home in a game where they're 2 touchdown favorites, that's not going to go over well. I think they've lost 4 of their last 5, and there are reasonable expectations at Florida State for them to compete, and they just haven't done that the last 2 years. And I mean, hell, they didn't win their first conference game over the last 2 years until last week when they beat the brakes off of Wake Forest. But there's a lot of uncertainty at Florida State, obviously. So if the Florida State job does open up, I think that changes the dynamic. I did think that the Auburn opening, Andrew, was going to change the dynamic as well. It doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like the Tigers are not really looking at James Franklin and are looking elsewhere, which is obviously good for the Hokies. There was some smoke about maybe Tech calling up PJ Fleck from Minnesota. I have a feeling that was, if that happened, it was probably more of a negotiation play. The vibe I'm getting here, Andrew, is that Virginia Tech is made it abundantly clear that they want James Franklin to be the head coach. And James Franklin wants to be in Blacksburg. It seems like the two sides need to go ahead and just get this done. Yes, there are potential openings that James Franklin would maybe have a little bit more resources at, Andrew, but they're all going to be the meat grinder that he just came out of at Penn State. I mean, folks need to remember that James Franklin was just a few plays away from coaching in the national championship last season. And, 6 games into the year, he finds himself out on his ass, which is just a crazy reality of the sport that we now consume on a weekly basis. That kind of situation doesn't exist in Blacksburg, Andrew. If he were to put Virginia Tech on the doorstep of competing for a national championship, and then the next year lose 3 straight games, 2 of which were to awful opponents, he would not be out on his ass. And there is
because we can't afford to fire him if he does.
Well, that's certainly part
Some
of
people
it,
would be calling for his ass.
Yeah, but the fact is that I think Tech fans have shown that they are much more patient and much more willing to give people the benefit of the doubt and give them a chance to turn it around. We saw it with Justin Fuente. We saw it with Brent Pry. Tech fans are pretty willing to kind of ride the wave for a little bit until things have a chance to settle down. I think there's some value in that. I think there's value in the access to the playoff, which, at least the way that things are constructed right now, Virginia Tech has that access. The ACC is certainly gettable. There is no powerhouse in this conference right now, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be for the foreseeable future. So I still think this gets done. Yes, I'm probably a little less confident now than I was a week or so ago, but I still think that this is going to happen. And I think it's a good marriage for both parties. I think it gives Franklin just about exactly what he wants. He's going to have a ton of money to spend on his roster. He's going to have the atmosphere. He's going to have a chance to make the playoff. And for Virginia Tech, I think Franklin's the best coach on the market. Is he a perfect coach? No, he absolutely is not. There are things that he would have to improve upon if he's going to get to that upper echelon at Virginia Tech that he wasn't able to get to at Penn State. But as far as the guys that are available right now, Andrew, I think Franklin is hands down the best. And Virginia Tech, it would behoove them to get this done ASAP before any other jobs potentially come open. Obviously, it takes two parties to tango, but Tech needs to do everything that they can, and I believe that they are. But I think Tech needs to do everything that they can to wrap this up.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, they hired James Franklin. I'll say this now. I'll put it out there into the universe. You can clip this and never use it against me, and use it against me all you want in the future. I'm like, it seems almost irrational to think this would be a bad idea. Like, if this works out, it's a heist for Virginia Tech. Yeah. It's like unlike anything really that's ever happened in the history of the university from an athletic perspective. Granted, like, there's been less opportunities given that Frank Beamer was here and dominating for, the vast majority of at least like most of living history that people like, the lifespan of a 40-year-old type of deal. So, I mean, it would be incredible. And what keeps me going here, though, it's certainly nerve-wracking, is like the tea leaves that are still coming out, and like that it's not out the window yet. It's like, what are we waiting for? Like, which is, so it's almost sketchy on that end, but at the same time, like, I don't think James Franklin would negotiate in bad faith for 3 weeks. I hope not. Like, yeah. I don't think you come to Blacksburg allegedly. I wasn't there with him in the room. I didn't see him, but allegedly being in Blacksburg twice now, checking out the area, now looking at homes. It's time, dude. Put pen to paper and let's start talking about what happens going forward. Because if not, like, if at this point, right, if Tech wasted the entire month of October salivating over Shane Beamer and then into midway through November negotiating with James Franklin, we have lost any leverage that was presented by firing the head man in week 3, which is like, you take on the idea that firing a guy that early in the season is kind of throwing the season in hopes that you're taking on some leverage in the search, which has been especially important in this search when there's so many competitors involved with more to come. And if we go into like November 17th and it turns out James Franklin's just playing us, like, that's embarrassing. But I hope that's not the case. I hope there'll be a press conference before then.
Yeah, it's hard for me to not be excited about the possibility that Virginia Tech, out of all the programs that have openings right now, LSU, Auburn, potentially Florida State, Penn State, it's exciting to me that Virginia Tech could make the best hire out of all of those programs.
I mean, it's
a huge possibility. At this point, I think it is likely, but Virginia Tech could potentially hire a better head coach on paper than LSU, Penn State, and Auburn. That's enticing. That's exciting. That's the kind of move that wakes people up and gets people excited about the future.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we'd win the offseason. Now, granted, we won the offseason a couple of years ago, but yeah. I mean, James Franklin, like, if James Franklin can't win at Tech, like, this place is cursed. Like, it's true. Like the guys won at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
He resurrected Penn State from the dead, and though it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, he won like 80% of his games, more than that total.
Yeah.
Like, if he can't win, and for the same reason why Florida State should be, like, Virginia Tech should be able to win in the ACC with a mediocre coach. Like, the resources should be there, and hopefully the way things are going, the resources will be there even more so. But yeah, it's like James Franklin has the opportunity to do something really special, when you bring in that combination of, experience and pedigree. And as I always say on the show, perception is reality in college football, and it would create an incredibly positive perception around Virginia Tech as he tries to rebuild the program. And you're playing in the ACC, and now you got like a budget to really hang in there with the big boys. Like, I wouldn't expect it to happen overnight, but I would expect significant progress pretty damn soon. Like, I would expect a good season next year, a season that we could all get excited about. Like, renew your season tickets in a heartbeat kind of deal.
Yeah, if you're on the fence about renewing your tickets and you see Franklin in a press conference in a couple weeks or next week or whenever the hell it would happen, you would probably renew them pretty damn quickly, for sure. Let's talk about these Noles real quick, Andrew. Florida State, how the mighty have fallen, Andrew. This was a team that beat Alabama week 1 and immediately vaulted into the national title picture. They came crashing down just a few weeks later with this double overtime loss to UVA, and it's been a bit of a mess ever since. They lost to Miami the following week. They lose to Pitt. The Pitt and Stanford losses, Andrew, I think are when fans realized that this Florida State team was not serious. Losing to Stanford on the road, I don't care if you play that game in Tallahassee or you play it on the moon, Florida State should not be losing to Stanford. It's just the reality. They lose that game 2013. They get a bye week and then they blow out Wake Forest, which was a bit of a surprise. And then they lose to kind of a mediocre Clemson team last week by 2 touchdowns. This is this team kind of reminds me of some of those Miami teams not too long ago, Andrew, that are exceptionally talented, but just do not win a lot of games.
I mean, yeah, man, football is a team sport, and the team doesn't play well together, you're toast. They could have all the talent in the world. I mean, even look at the amount of Miami players in the NFL from that era. Like, they weren't devoid of talent. Yeah. And they couldn't get it together. I mean, you could say similar. I mean, there's just so many factors at play. I mean, Virginia Tech was a 6-6 team last year, and they sent 6 guys to the NFL, and 1 guy is a top 10 draft prospect next year, plays for LSU now, right? Like, so it's a team that, like, is certainly, give them credit where it's due for going off and beating the brakes out of Wake Forest, who was apparently better than the number, whatever team in the country a week later. So there's that, right? But I mean, I think Florida State's obviously the more talented team on paper, and they're playing at home, but I wouldn't count Tech out. I'd take NC State over Florida State on a neutral field, and I think Mike put it well, kind of when we evaluated this, really, like, after the NC State game, even after the Wake loss, right? Like, Virginia Tech's a good enough team to go out there and give most of the teams in the ACC a fight, though they're not a particularly good team. So could that happen in Tallahassee on Saturday? I wouldn't bet on it, but ironically enough, me thinking the team would be better, Virginia Tech, before the season, I'm probably more confident in their ability to win this game today than I was before the season. So, which just kind of shows how far that team has fallen.
Yeah, the whole Thomas Castellanos bit was really fun there for a while, at least for Florida State fans. Since then, things have not been as fun with Castellanos. I'm trying to pull up his game log here, but he's only thrown 11 touchdowns. He's thrown 6 picks. Sure, a lot of his value comes in the run game, and he is the leading rusher for Florida State. but still hasn't been that kind of superstar player that he was earlier in the year. So in his last 3 games, he's only thrown 2 touchdowns. He threw that pick against Clemson last week. Not really doing a ton on the ground either. Andrew's last rushing touchdown was against Wake Forest in that blowout win. Castellanos seemed like he was a good fit for this Gus Malzahn offense, but whether it's the issues up front that they've had at times, or Castellanos turning it over, it seems like this offense just really hasn't gotten clicking. And again, Clemson's defense not all that great this year, and they only scored 10 last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's I wouldn't say that Boston College had a Castellanos problem last year, but it certainly wasn't the solution either. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it kind of just feels like they did the DJU thing like 2 years in a row. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it does kind of feel that way.
But no, I mean, I don't have a ton of respect for Florida State as a football team, like for that very reason, right? Like it's not an offense that, with the exception of a miracle showing against Alabama and playing against Wake, has really gotten any consistent rhythm going at any point in the season. And I guess that creates opportunities, but Virginia Tech's offense hasn't really shown all that great of an offensive rhythm either, though they've had their moments as well. So, all in all, I don't mind the fact that I'm going to be in Spain for this one. Probably unable to watch the game.
Yeah, for those who were unaware, Andrew is heading to Madrid to watch
even worse football.
Yeah, unfortunately, Washington is not the team it was just a few weeks ago, especially without Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, and like a plethora of other injuries, and the players that aren't getting injured are getting ejected from the game and suspended for the next. So everything is, I mean, again, I'll enjoy the tapas. I didn't even know what tapas were until I booked this trip. I'll enjoy the tapas.
Yeah, Dan Quinn better figure it out. Last other point I want to make about this game before we get into our picks, Andrew, is that Virginia Tech's offense clearly needs to rely on running the football. That's going to be their identity moving forward. We've seen that that's how this offense is going to put up points. With the personnel that they have, the one thing that Florida State has done remotely well this year is stop the run. They've been pretty good at that. They got beat up against UVA. I think they gave up over 200 yards on the ground in that game, but other than that, the one game where they gave up the most on the ground was against Pitt. Otherwise, it's been pretty darn good on the ground for the Noles. So I think that that's my biggest concern, Andrew, for this game is Virginia Tech being able to grind it out this one. This offense just doesn't have the horses on the outside and the guys up front in the pass game to be able to move the ball through the air consistently. This is a run-first offense. It just is what it is at this point. And I do worry about their ability to be able to produce against Florida State up front. And I think a lot of it's going to fall on Kyron Jones's shoulders once again. He's going to have to be Superman.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to definitely have to make some things happen with his legs, as we have seen very, very consistently throughout the season, whether they're playing Old Dominion, whether they're playing Wake Forest, whether they're playing Louisville, whether they're playing South Carolina. This group cannot hold its own in the trenches. Kyron's going to be under fire, and Florida State has no shortage of athleticism in that area. So, running the football is going to be a challenge. Passing the football has consistently been a challenge for Kyron Jones throughout the season and, frankly, throughout his career. So where does that leave us? Him playing a little backyard football and trying to make things happen. So, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I don't have a ton of confidence, and neither does Vegas, that the line continues to move in favor of Florida State.
Yeah, this one opened at 10.5, I think, Andrew, and the latest line that I found tonight that we're going to pick is 13.5 for Florida State, which is some pretty considerable movement considering it's Tuesday night. So we'll see what this line looks like on Saturday. Let's go ahead and get into these picks, if that works for you. Friday night, Clemson on the road at ranked Louisville, 7:30 on ESPN. Cards 2.5-point favorites here at home. I know that Clemson won last week, Andrew, but I think Louisville is due for a bit of a bounce back. Only a 2.5-point spread. I'll take the Cards. I think that they can cover here.
Yeah, I will take Louisville as well, though I do not think they're a particularly excellent football team. Obviously, neither is Clemson, who has a losing record in the ACC.
Yeah, I think as long as Isaac Brown is good to go, I think Louisville can move the ball on the ground enough to be able to win that one by 3 or more. Moving on, noon ABC. This is the College Game Day location for the weekend. Notre Dame traveling to Pitt. Number 9 Irish, number 22 Panthers. Andrew, did you see Narduzzi's interesting quote about this game?
Repeat it.
He essentially said that like they could lose this game by 100 and he won't really care. And it's all about winning the games after that to try and get to Charlotte. That's all he cares about. Not exactly the most inspiring message to put in the public before the game.
I mean, that's true. That is not a very inspiring message. But that being said, I'm sure if I was Pat Narduzzi and you offered me that deal right now, you'll get smoked by Notre Dame that beat Georgia Tech in Miami, and you'll go to the ACC championship game. I would probably take that deal with a smile. But, we talk about coach speak. Sometimes, just like the coaches of the, FBS or FCS teams or group of 5 schools in their press conferences say like, yeah, we're going to prepare to, win a football game against the Georgia Bulldogs. Like, everyone knows that you're just getting paid to play this game and you're going to get run off the field, but like, you got to act a certain way as a head coach. And Narduzzi didn't do that, but I mean, at least he's being honest.
He is. Irish are 11.5-point road favorites here. Give me Pitt with the points. I think Heinzel can keep this close.
Tough call. I'm going to represent the Mike McDaniel Stan organization here and pick Notre Dame.
Indeed, nobody silently stands for the Irish more than Mike. Moving on, NC State on the road. Canes are 14.5-point favorites against the Wolfpack. Look, I don't have a ton of confidence in Miami. I've made that abundantly clear. Give me NC State with the points here.
14, the half kicker is big there.
It is. Look, man, there's going to be like 8 people at this game.
I know. I'm going to go with give me Miami. I mean, NC State definitely breathes some life into, the public's faith in them, Vegas's faith in them by beating Georgia Tech the way that they did, but they got ran off the field the last 2 games before that. I'm going to take the greater sample size there. And they lost to Virginia Tech. What does that say about them?
Fair enough. 3:30 on the ACC network. Georgia Tech still ranked. Going to BC. Speaking of a game that will have 8 fans. Yellow Jackets are 16.5-point favorites here on the road. Regardless, Boston College is awful. I'll take the Jackets.
Yeah, I would maybe even alt spread it. Like, I think I would take higher spreads too. I got no faith in this Boston College team. That is quit watching a half. Who are they speculating about as the next head coach of Boston College? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, not so good for Bill O'Brien right now. They're 1-9. Virginia on the road here at Duke. Interesting spread here, Andrew. I don't know if you noticed this. So number 19 Virginia is 8-2. They're on the road. Duke just lost to UConn this past weekend, and the Blue Devils are 5-4. Duke is a 5.5-point favorite at home here. Just in case you needed any inclination as to what Vegas thinks of the Wahoos. To me, Andrew, this game is entirely dependent on whether Chandler Morris plays. It seems like he's questionable, still in concussion protocol. I'm gonna bet that he does play, and I'll take UVA here with the points on the road. I think UVA is the better team if Chandler Morris is available. Andrews, you're muted.
Sorry, it's getting late. What I was saying is there is a clear path for Duke if they win this game to finish the ACC slate with just a singular loss, and vice versa if you're a Virginia fan that thinks you have a chance to beat Virginia Tech. So, only one man could come out of this unscathed. I just don't think Virginia's that good. They narrowly beat Washington State. They narrowly beat North Carolina. Their signature win from the beginning of the season, Florida State, ends up being a nothing burger. As we look back on it, I mean, I'll give them credit where credit is due. They pulled one out against the Louisville team that, is okay. They're talent-wise one of the better teams in the conference, but, they're still worthy of losing to Cal. Not Duke's nothing special. Quarterback questions. It's Tuesday, and I had to pick it. Give me the Devils.
Fair enough. Should have known you would take Duke. On the CW, Andrew, at 4:30, UNC is going to Wake Forest. Wake is 6.5-point favorites in this game. Andrew, that one doesn't make any sense to me. Give me the Tar Heels. I think UNC is playing better, and Wake is just far too inconsistent. I'll take the Tar Heels with the points. You're on mute again, Andrew. Stop muting your damn mic.
We all laughed at Wake Forest on the schedule this year. I heard people making jokes. The offensive line is bad, but, they should be able to do fine against Wake Forest. I might have made that joke.
Yeah.
Wake Forest is bowl eligible with the real opportunity to get to 8 wins. Like, they got UNC in a game where they're favored, and then they got Delaware afterwards. And I wouldn't totally rule them out of the possibility of beating Duke. I mean, you could be staring at 7. 7 seems likely. 8, what I'm going to pick them to go to, because I think they cover this spread. 9 isn't out of the question. What a world we live in. But yeah, give me Wake. The Belichick circus, the drum bangs on.
Yeah, Jake Dicker deserves a ton of credit for what he's doing at Wake Forest here. Finally, Virginia Tech is going to be traveling to Tallahassee for a nighttime game on ACC Network. Tech 13.5-point dogs on the road. Andrew, I told you that I think this game hinges heavily on whether or not Virginia Tech can run the football. I think Virginia Tech's defense can play well enough to keep this one within striking distance. I think Tech is going to be able to keep this within 2 touchdowns. I don't have a ton of faith in this Florida State offense, and I think Tech can grind out a couple scores here. So give me Tech on the road plus 13.5.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to agree with you. I mean, I don't think Tech wins this game, but I don't necessarily envision Florida State, really blowing them out. I mean, this is a team that obviously has all kinds of problems. So, maybe it's wishful thinking, and I'll be proven wrong, but I don't know how many teams in the Power 5 I would take Florida State with a 13.5-point spread against right now. And I'm certainly not going to do it on a Virginia Tech podcast.
Yeah, Florida State is definitely on quit watch. So I'm not sure what version of the Noles we're going to get on Saturday. Hopefully it's not the good version, because it would be nice to march into there and get a W. Any last words, Andrew, before we hit the road?
Well, folks, I hope you enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the game if you're going. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a chance to go to Tallahassee, and I wouldn't totally rule the team out of winning. So there's that. Probably won't be here for the recap, given that I will be in Spain. So I may miss 1 or 2 episodes, but I will find a way to be back. Virginia Tech announces James Franklin as the head coach in that period of time. I will be bringing the microphone. I won't have much to comment on because I have a hard time believing I'll be able to find the Virginia Tech game in Spain. But I'm going to try.
Yeah, good luck with that one. Yeah, we'll obviously, should Virginia Tech make a decision at head coach and it leaks, we will definitely be recording as soon as we can after that. Regardless, we'll be back with a recap either late Sunday night or potentially Monday. I'm not sure what my schedule is going to look like when I'll be getting back and what I'll be able to do. But until that recap, folks, go Hokies.